And that's what our spirituality takes, is stopping the chattering of the mind and emotions. The Hindus talk about the desireless state and riding the middle path Buddha. And we don't want to negate anybody. We love everybody. No religion or teaching at this level has all the answers, because this level is very limited in the understanding of the infinite. And therefore, when you must become more of the infinite if you want to understand the infinite. If you're trying to understand the infinite through reading and your mind, you can't get there. The mind is not infinite. So I'm going to show you this chart here. Drew, let's get us up here and see if I can do the Eck Teachings has a much better chart. I don't follow that way. I don't believe that the individual now is quite right for that level, but we needed to back down a little bit. Very powerful level of existence, especially for souls with physical bodies. Hard to be clear. Matter of fact, you could never enter the heart of God while maintaining a physical body and not keep it. It'll just burn it up. It's just way too powerful. So, but how are we doing with this chart? Looking pretty good. If you'll look at this chart, I teach this in my school because it's important to understand genetics and etheric bodies. Because of these wars, we have so many limb removals. And there's the story of the phantom limbs, where if you remove your arm, you still feel your arm. And that's because you still have your arm, not physically, etherically. So I want to show you this. Up here is the soul plane. And I'm going to use the word soul plane because really it's where the first time, if you're going this way, you're going out of the lowest part of creation, which is the physical world, and you're entering the highest level. The soul plane is the first level of pure consciousness outside of creation in its entirety. And that level has been referred to as the Sat-Nam, S-A-T-N-A-M level. The Radhaswami, the Yoga of Light and Sound, Shabda Yoga, talks about that level of consciousness. And as you as soul, that is where you lose your individuality. That's where you have to, if you want to experience that level of God, you must cease to exist as an individual. And that's where the real tough ride is to go beyond your ego. Because when you come down out of the Godhead and God says, I want to experience this, I want to be, God separates itself, in other words, into individuals. I look at creation like a shattered mirror. Even though there's all kinds of pieces to a shattered mirror, there's still just a reflection of the whole mirror. And that's who you are. And so when you come down into creation, you must take on what's called the etheric body or the ego. And that gives you individuality. Now it's funny, it's kind of like a riddle in the sense that you must lose your individuality to gain your individuality, because in the words of most of the spiritual giants, that alone exists. It kind of fits into the omnipresence understanding of Christianity, and that there is only God. And so when it decides to manifest itself in duality, it must take on individuality. And that's the id, the ego. When this gets too big, we've got a problem, as some of you've seen on some videos. Some people's egos are just getting out of line. And, don't beat them up too much. This is life in the way it is. We must pull out of that, or we could live for lifetimes with this ego and this self type of thing. But you've got to. This is the hardest level to let go before you enjoy the beauty of the all. You must let your ego go. But it's the first time you take on a body. This has been referred to as the subconscious part of yourself. It is all seeing in creation, and it's a huge plane full of untold beauty, but it does deal with individuality. Down from that is the pure mind. The pure mind has been written a lot about by Holmes. If you read anything on Holmes, he wrote a book, I think, called Pure Mind. The other word for pure mind is cosmic consciousness. When I first experienced that, it is an allness, it is a oneness. You feel one with everything that's in creation. The problem is you're still an individual, even though one with everything. It takes the soul plane and above to lose that individuality and everything truly become one. But cosmic consciousness, Christ consciousness, there's a lot of words, that the bliss plane, there's a lot of words associated with that. I think the Hindus call it the Brahm world, but it does not matter. It's the pure mind world. Get books on Holmes if you want, but don't spend a lot of time in the mind. These are formless worlds where there is no form to you. There's just levels of consciousness. When you start leaving the pure mind, that's when you start taking on a form. And that's the lower part of the mind called the causal mind. Creation divides itself into three forces. We could just keep it simple and say that's where duality is perceived. That's where yin and yang, positive and negative, male and female, that's where pure mind splits itself off into two major channels. Brahm Vishnu, or Brahm Shiva in Hinduism, you have the two currents, the male current, the female current. And of course there's endless entities tied to each side, and different people worship either side and all that. However, these are two forces that are essential to duality and runs all creation below that. This causal world is an incredible world, but it's where you first take on the shape of what you see now. And when you leave the body and travel these, you will still have a similar body than you have now, just so much more brilliant, and your ability to create is just like that. Amazing to experience these worlds of jeweled cities and plants that flash every color on the planet. When you come down out of the causal world, you're out of the mind now, and now you take on the emotional body, or the you take on the emotional or astral body. At the top of this world, you'll visit Sahasradel Kanwal, which is a 3 mountain peaks that house the 1,000-petal lotus. Now, you've heard that in literature, especially those that are Indian, but this is an actual powerhouse of energy that feeds the astral world and the physical world, and you can actually visit this, and I've been there several times. It is such a feeling of ecstasy and nirvana and beauty, colors you've never seen before, unbelievable power, beauty beyond belief. And then you have the astral world. Again, any books by Monroe, or go to the Monroe Institute or Google the Monroe Institute, I'm sure he has mapped out a lot of this world, spent a lot of time in there, I understand. And then you come down and take on a physical body. Well, if you look at all life here, we've proved that plants have emotions, plants have memory. And this causal world is memory. Past, present, and future. That's where that's where duality exists. When you leave the causal world, you're in pure mind, there's no memory to it. So you'll see plant animals. Everything that is here in the physical world also has an emotional counterpart, also has a mental counterpart, has a mind, and therefore you see all that in everything, even the elements. You know, it's really cool to study gems and why gems are here. I think a book, Gifts of the Gemstone Guardians, incredible book on the entities responsible for controlling the gems on this planet. Unbelievable information. For some of you, this might sound really weird and way out there, and I understand that. I think we're good with this chart now, and I think we'll go back. Sounds a lot of weird, but you know what? Open yourself up